So I'm currently in Dalian, northeast China, and I've been here for just over 3 weeks now, conducting research and fieldwork. And I have with me my Fujifilm GFX 50S2, which is my standard camera. And I thought it would be an interesting time to do a review of this product because I've had it now for about a year. So I thought, well, I've been using it constantly for the last 3-4 weeks, and there are certain things that I'd like to kind of share with you about this. So what I'm going to do is just really kind of troubleshoot, give you some of the plus points, but mostly give you the negative points, because for me, unfortunately, that's where this camera is situated at. So I should explain a little bit about my history of photography. So I've been taking photographs now for probably 40 years. Started with 35mm, then I studied photography at undergrad, did a BA honours in photography, so I used 35 black and white and colour, I used medium format, I used large format, and then I did a master's degree in photography, and so again 35mm, medium format, large format. So my history with Fuji is also quite long, because I had used the X Pro 3 before this, and a long time ago I used one of Fuji's first generation of digital cameras. So I like Fuji products, which is obviously why I bought this. Okay, so I'm going to break this down into things that I like and things I dislike about this GFX 50S2. The things that I like are really only 3 things. They are the size of the sensor. Obviously this is a medium format sensor. There is the way that Fuji constructs the image, the RGB nature in terms of the sensors and the way it separates the image and reassembles it. And then there are the Fuji presets, which I really like. And obviously Fuji, coming from the film background, that gives them the advantage over other manufacturers who don't have access to that kind of the legacy, that history of film simulation profiles. Beyond being pretty good, you're able to tweak them, you're able to change them, and that's the thing I like. I don't just want a Velvia, I don't want a Provia. I actually want to be able to change it according to my own parameters. So it's pretty flexible in terms of its ability to change the film profiles, and I respect that, and I like that very much. So what do I dislike about the product? I pretty much dislike everything about it. So where to begin? Well, the design is terrible. The design is completely unergonomic. I mean, it's absolutely dreadful. You can see there, it's basically a square shape. I don't have such large hands, but I can't grip it correctly. It's difficult for me to see because the GoPro's in a peculiar angle, but I can't grip this without having a gap between my fingers and my palm there. So I never feel like I've got it really secure. The Canon EOS 1N, which I had, which is the best camera ever made, that was superb in its ergonomics. And you really felt like you were holding that. And this thing weighs a lot, right? This thing weighs quite a bit, so you always feel that it's slightly unbalanced. And again, there's no real, you've got that part there, but there's no real sense of a cantilever. There's no real way to balance this. So I always feel that I've never quite got a handle on it. That's the first thing. But that bad design continues throughout the camera. I mean, it's just a terribly designed product. It strikes me as a kind of like, well, they got the engineers to design the internals, and then he just basically asked the quartermaster, if you like, to come up with the rest of it. So as a product, as a holistic product, it wasn't designed. It clearly wasn't designed. And again, you'll see this now as I go through it. So where to begin? The on-off button is very, very hard to turn on sometimes. It has this kind of weird little line there, but when you're wearing gloves, and if you do outdoor photography, do documentary photography like I do, using gloves for a good percentage of the year, it's sometimes really, really hard to turn that on and turn that off. There's a wheel here which thankfully you can turn off. That's a good design, but I don't want the wheel there. I don't need the wheel there, so that could be eliminated, and this should be redesigned. There is a strange exposure compensation button here, which is completely and utterly unnecessary. I had a Ricoh GR, it was here somewhere. This is completely unnecessary. So basically, sometimes when you're wearing gloves and you're turning it on or turning it off, or you're moving your finger around here, you actually will depress that. And then when you come to use exposure compensation wheel, which is here, you find it doesn't work. Well, the reason is that you turn it on or turn it off. That doesn't need to be there at all. I wasn't going to sell the product. I'd actually super glue these shut. I would actually just cover this in super glue. I would cover a number of these things in super glue because I just don't want them. I don't need them. So another poor design is, again, this wheel. And this wheel is used for exposure compensation, but the gearing on it is such that if you're, say, shooting from 2 under and you want to get to ±0, you really have to wind that. The gearing is far too small on it. Continuing on from that, if you're on preset, for example, if I'm on preset 1 and I'm shooting 2 under, logic would dictate that if I was to go to preset 2, it's going to be the same lighting conditions, therefore I would likely need to be 2 under. No. What it does, if I'm on preset 1 and I'm shooting 2 under, and I go to preset 2, it will keep the exposure compensation in play. And it might have been, a month ago it was winter, now it's spring. So then when I crack that open, it's suddenly, it's 2 under, 2 over, it's in the wrong place. Why this exposure compensation doesn't follow you throughout the presets, I have absolutely no idea. What else is wrong? Well, you've got these buttons. I mean, you can see you've got this array of buttons I don't need. There's a touch screen there, which is not bad, which means that all of these buttons are pretty much useless. One thing that I do notice is that when I've got this round my neck and I'm walking the streets, this is kind of like banging on the back, and it sometimes knocks these buttons, which means when I go to take a photograph, we're in somewhere else. It's in some different position. It always changes the ISO, for example. It never stays on 50 where I want it. It's always changing. This quick button is completely unnecessary. I don't need this. Again, most of these functions you can find through the screen, and it's a touch screen, so why have that? You could eliminate that, eliminate that, eliminate those, eliminate that. That wheel I would put like the Canon EOS one I would put there. Eliminate that, eliminate those, eliminate that. So yeah, I could eliminate all of these buttons with and replace that with a proper dial that actually felt like a proper dial. Another thing I can't stand about this is this jogging wheel, which again is like an afterthought. It's just a terrible idea. We have a touch screen, so we don't really need this. And when you're reviewing your photographs through the eyepiece, you can kind of like shove it left and shove it right, and you can use it to navigate the photos quite easily. But when you actually come to use this as a tool in the menu, it is shockingly bad. You can see the wiggle on that there, and that wouldn't be enough to move it. That is a move, that is a move, that is a move, that is a move. That wiggle that you see that's happening there now isn't an actual movement. So when you go through your menu, what you have is you kind of like, it's really hard to actually pin a movement down. For example, you're choosing the ISO because it always slips out of ISO. You scroll down to the ISO, so that's a definite movement. I scroll down to 50 ISO, and then I have to go right to select it. It's really hard to actually select it and not jump up again. It's very difficult. This is an absolute, just a terrible design. So just moving around, again, you've got this dial here, which is a really cheap, crappy dial. It feels like an afterthought. They haven't really thought this through at all. So these don't click very nicely, and there's a kind of play there, like you can see there's some wiggle in there. There's kind of a lot of wiggle before it turns. It's really not very good. You can press that to stop the button rotating, but you can see the amount of wiggle that is there. Next point is you've got this, you can also shoot film on this. I'm going to put myself out there, who the hell is going to buy this for shooting film? But you can see that the dial is right next to that. So again, you're in the winter, you're wearing gloves, you're always knocking this. So you're changing your input dial, you go to look through the viewfinder, and you're on film. So then you have to kind of scramble up here to turn it off. Why is that there and not on here? I don't need that there. I don't even need it on this camera, but if you want to put the film function on there, put it on the wheel. What else is poor? The viewfinder. It's a medium format camera. Medium format camera is often used for portraiture, wedding photography, landscape photography. It's mostly tripod work. The fact that I use this for street photography is a little bit of an anomaly, but it's a medium format camera. Medium format cameras are invariably used shooting from the waist. I mean, look at the iconic Hasselblad design. It's, you're shooting from the waist, or you're shooting from a tripod looking down, the top here. On a previous incarnation of this camera, there was the facility to take this off and put a tilting eye view finder on it. Not this one. This one is fixed. That's a nonsensical idea. Why would Fuji do that? I have absolutely no idea. Next point is the Eyecup. As you can see, I've got a replacement Eyecup on this. The one that comes with it is this dreadful, cheap, stodgy kind of product that doesn't, block any light. It serves no function whatsoever. So you need to take that off, in my opinion, and replace it with one of these, which will allow you to block the light. However, you probably can't tell, but this is a third-party product. This is not a Fuji product. I had originally bought a Fuji one, which is really quite expensive. And I bought the Fuji one after reading on Amazon review that it didn't fit very well, but I thought, okay, I'm going to try it anyway. So I bought the Fuji one, and it didn't lock in. It didn't lock in. It always moved, and it just didn't lock in. Anyway, I used it one time, and when I came back home, it had gone. Because again, when you're doing street photography, this is on your back. So as you're walking, this is knocking against you. And I lost it, first time to use it, and it was really quite an expensive product. So I went back online on Amazon. I found this one from China, and a Chinese replica, which fits absolutely perfectly, does the job a third of the price. So I recommend, if you're going to buy this camera, to take off the awful Fuji product and stick on one of these Eyecups, and it will allow you to really see inside the camera. So why would you buy this product? Well, you wouldn't. Plain and simple, you wouldn't buy it. Would I buy this again? Yes, I would, simply because I like the large sensor. If I could find a comparable product which had the large sensor, the presets, then I would change this immediately. Despite my long-term loyalty with Fuji, I would change this immediately. Would I recommend you buying the product? No. No, absolutely not. I don't know why anybody would buy this in the current marketplace. I think for most photographers, you can do almost as much with less. And these are expensive, right? These are not cheap. So if you're going to invest your hard-earned money in a camera, why would you invest your money in this? I should just point out one other thing. You notice on here I'm using a third-party lens. On my X Pro 3, the X lenses were excellent. They're very short, very fast, very cheap, and excellent lenses. But the lenses for the GFX are these huge lenses, which are very expensive and very slow. And I can't understand why anybody would buy those lenses. You're much better buying an adapter ring and changing to third-party lenses. This is a much better solution. Last thing to mention, which kind of follows on from the lens sizes, is that the previous camera to this was my X Pro 3, which is fantastic for street and documentary photography. I don't know why, because this doesn't, to me, it doesn't seem to be that big a camera. But this draws an awful lot of attention. The X Pro 3 used to draw no attention, but this draws an awful lot of attention. And if you're walking in areas or you're taking photographs in areas where you want to be kind of inconspicuous, this really doesn't allow that to happen. I don't know why, because for me, it doesn't seem to be that big, but it certainly gets people's attention. So I don't know why that would be the case. So if you're looking for something that's a little bit more stealth, and you're looking for something that's a little bit more low-key, I really wouldn't recommend this. So for street photography and for documentary photography, maybe this isn't the best choice for you. Following on from that, about the heft and the weight of it, again, if I'm walking the streets for 8 or 9 hours a day taking photographs, I have backache by the time I arrive home. Yeah, I don't know whether it's because I'm walking and this is banging on the back, my lower back. I don't know whether that's the reason why or what. I don't know what it is, but not every day, but most days I arrive back home and I have backache. I feel like I'm carrying whatever this weighs, a kilo. I don't know what this weighs. I feel like I'm carrying a kilo around my neck. I really do. Whereas the X Pro 3 that I had before, I just didn't even know I was carrying that. So if you're looking for a camera that's going to fit well, be easy to carry, be comfortable, for a good 8 or 9 hours of walking the streets, shooting, documentary street photography, this is not the camera for you.